Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing My Shelfie from Cranio Creations. My Shelfie is a 2 to 4 player game of putting tiles into your Connect 4 grid. I don't know the best way to do it, but set collection. This is probably set collection in the sense that you are trying to gather tiles, you're going to be putting them into your little Connect 4 grid, and the reason, or the way you're going to score points, the reason you're doing these and grabbing these tiles, is to score points for large groups of colors, specifically a group of 3 of the same color in a touching group is going to be worth 2 points, a group of 4 is going to be worth 3 points, 5 is 5 points, and 6 is 8 points. 6 plus is 8 points, so that 7th tile is not scoring anything. But then in addition to creating groups of colors, you're also going to get your own personal private scoring goal, which this is if you can match by looking it down and seeing how this matches up. If you can match certain colors to certain spots in your grid, you'll get anywhere between 1 to 12 extra points for being able to achieve all 6 of those. And then lastly, you have goals, and well, not lastly, there's also a point you get for true game endgame. But aside from the point for endgame, let's put that down over here. You're also going to get points for getting goals. There's going to be a bunch of goal cards. You have 2 per game, and those goal cards are going to reward you either 2, 4, 6 or 8 points, and that does potentially adjust based on player count for achieving that goal first. So for example, in this case, if I have a grouping of 4 of the same type touching, then you go ahead. If I have 2 groups of that, I get 8 points. And over here, it's going to be the person who gets in the corners is going to get 8 points. And this is based on who gets it first. So getting, groups of the same color you're doing anyway, but if you're able to ramp up and get it faster, then you can get points, bonus points for doing that. So again, you're trying to grab tiles, you're placing them to your Connect 4 grid, and you're doing so for groups of colors, trigger an endgame, your personal scoring objective, and then the public scoring objectives and getting there first. As far as what your actual turn looks like in the game, is in a game you're going to go ahead and take tiles in this grid, placing it into your little 4x4 grid over here. Not 4x4, I don't know why I said that. It's a 5x5 grid. But is it a 5x6 grid? It's a 5x6 grid. I know what I'm talking about over here. But past that, you're going to be grabbing these tiles, and you can only grab tiles that have an exposed side. And you can grab between 1 and 3 tiles touching each other that have an exposed side. So for example, I can't grab this, and I can't grab these 3 because there's no exposed side in that, but I could grab these 2. In fact, maybe that's what I'll do. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll go ahead and do that because I'll go ahead and take these, hopefully trying to get this goal. Now when I do that, I'm going to put them into my grid over here, but the thing is you can't place them into multiple columns. You can only place them into one column. You can choose the order, but only one column, and so in that case, I'm going to go ahead and place them down over here, because when I do so, if I can go ahead and get it in, will it go in? Do I have it in upside down? I have it in upside down. I'm sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and place this around, and we're going to go ahead and place them in, and then see what we got. Because now, if you look at my personal scoring goal, you can see that I have this grid matched up over there. So I have 1 of my 6 already in play. From there, another player will go ahead and go, and they'll go ahead and take, again, they can only take exposed edges, so that maybe they go ahead, and let's pretend that they're being foolish, because let's do that for my benefit here. They'll take these 2 over here, which will leave me this beautiful row to take. They would never have done that, but let's pretend that they did. I'm going to go ahead and grab these over here, and I'm going to tuck them in over here, like so, like so, like so, and now you can see I have 4 of a kind already. If I can get another set of 4 of a kind, and I can block out the set over here, if I can get another set of 4 of a kind, that's going to already get me this goal over here. Actually, I have to double check that scoring goal. It could be a specific shape. Sometimes they show you a thing, but they just want a shape. Sometimes they don't. But anyways, other player will go ahead and go. They'll take a few tiles. Maybe they want these 3 over here because that works nicely for their goal. I have to think what I want over here. Maybe I'll start going for this card over here and start getting that. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's grab these 3. So I'm going to take, actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab these 3. Yeah, let's grab these 3. So we're going to take these 3 over here, exposed edges, and we're going to place them down into my grid. 1 down here, 1 down here, and 1 over here. Now it's worth noting, by the way, I already messed up one of my things over here because I went ahead and I put a pink down the bottom corner, which is great, but if I want to get this over here, I'll have to get pinks in all the corners, which means I won't be able to get this green. I should have looked over here, seen the green, and tried to get green in all the corners, but it's too late now. At least I got my second white over here, so I'm working my way towards a solid 2 points over there. Players are going to go back and forth taking tiles until the board eventually clears. Whenever you no longer have 2 tiles touching one another, you're going to go ahead and refill the board, and other players will take. These little dots here are for 3 and 4 players, so how much you refill the center board is going to affect, how and where you refill things. But again, general idea is you're grabbing tiles, you're placing them into your little your Connect 4 type shape over here, as you try to be mindful of the scoring goals, large groups of color. That's a big deal. Getting large groups of color is everything in this game because that's where you score a lot of points. But large groups of color, your personal scoring goal, the public scoring goal, and that 1 point for triggering endgame. Which brings us to a review, starting off with ease of play. This is an incredibly easy game to pick up. Incredibly easy. The rules are fairly straightforward. The only thing that people struggle with a bit is that aspect that you can only place into one column, and trying to figure out how to make everything work. It takes a game or two to get under your belt, but once you do, you're like, okay, great, this is what I have to do. This is how I try to optimize around the restriction of trying to get everything I want while only ever being able to dump what I grab into one column, because you kind of want to grab everything at once. And sure, getting those 3 pink over here, that was a great turn, but that usually doesn't happen. Usually you're juggling multiple colors while trying to make your large groupings pair up, which takes a lot of work, forethought, and often taking fewer tiles than you are able to, because more is not always better in this game. As far as what I like, don't like, and conceal is not liking, starting off with that kind of thing I just touched upon, it's a fairly simple game to actually get people up and running on. The core rules are pretty simple, but there's a degree of challenge behind it. There's a degree of optimizing around a few separate things, those 3 primary scoring things you're trying to balance over here, because it's not always an obvious puzzle. You'll have people who always insist on trying to score this 100% of the time, and that's great, except by doing so, you may be denying yourself giant chunks of points for being able to score multiple large groupings of 6+ tiles, or alternatively, you can do that and possibly miss out on the fact that you missed, chunks of 16 bonus points from the various goals in the game. There's a bunch of things you're trying to go for and trying to figure out the current board state, what other players are going for. That's part of it as well, by the way. If I see you going for that section of pink over there, I can use my knowledge of what you're going for to set up the board in a way that will trigger you clearing certain tiles because it's good for you, but that helps me out. It's almost like trading in Catan. You both benefit and the other players are left falling behind because of it. There's a very simple game here and a few scoring combinations and objectives that give you enough of a strategy to be incentivized to dive into this, and especially with the variable goals, it's quick, it's fun, it's compelling. The balance, the simple gameplay and balance of strategy is enough to pull you in for a fun time and a fairly quick game too. As far as what I don't like, the biggest thing that gets in the way of this is honestly the amount of filling up this board. Setting up this board is like a big interrupt in an otherwise fast-moving game, and it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. But in a game that's already like that's this easy to dive into, having that frequent mid-game break of like 3-4 minutes of just setting up tiles really slows down an otherwise fast-moving game. Past that, though, the only real complaint I have is this is a lighter experience, which is not a complaint, but just understand where you are, where this game is in terms of what it's giving you. This game gives you a fairly simple rule set and enough things to think about that it is compelling, but it is a game that I've played enough times that I also feel I've seen most of what this game has to offer. I don't think I'd ever turn down a game of this, but I'm past the phase where I'd recommend, I would recommend it. I'm past the phase where I would ask for it because I've played this game, I don't know, 10+ times, and I just feel that the amount of gameplays I have this versus the lightness of what's going on here is there is enough strategy to be compelled by what's going on, but I don't know, past, giving you a Connect 4 grid in a game system, it's not doing a ton that's innovative. It does some decent things, it does them in a way that works well, but it's a fun game and I've enjoyed it, but also the lightness of it does mean that I've already seen what this game has to offer. As far as I can see others not liking, anything above 2 players in this game, I mean this game plays 2 to 4 players, but anything above a 2-player game frequently has other players setting other players up for a good move. If you're trying to be mindful of not setting players up for an easy grouping of 3 or 4 tiles, well not 4, but 3 tiles that really work for them, you're trying to tactically make sure you never set other players up, and the other player to your left doesn't really care and isn't thinking about it, and so they keep setting up player 3 with a bunch of good, easy moves, while player 3 is playing cutthroat, and so you're not getting set up with any good moves. That can absolutely happen in a 3 or 4 player game. I find this a problem that's very often found in Azul as well. The idea that a 3 or 4 player game can have you playing it very tactically and other players just setting someone up so that you don't really get good pulls and other players do, and it just doesn't feel like you're losing because you're not playing well. It feels you're losing because someone else isn't playing well. This game definitely has that problem as well. Personally, I find that I enjoy it most as a 2-player game because of that. Because everything I do or don't do has a direct consequence and reaction to yourself, and I feel I'm not really being affected as much by the dynamics of the table. As far as final thoughts on my Shelfie, I enjoy the game. I don't love the game. I enjoy it. I've played it a decent amount. I've played it physically. I've played it on BGA. But the nice part of playing it online on BGA does mean that you kind of remove that tedious setup aspect. It kind of gives you all the highs of the game without having having to refill the board in between every single time you clear the board over there. But overall, it's a game that I enjoy. It's a game I've had fun with. It doesn't do a ton to be absolutely amazing. It's just a fun, simple point scoring game. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I enjoy it. I like it. I've also played it enough that I think I've seen most of what it has to offer by now. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, Azul. If you're looking for a very similar game system that kind of gives you the same feeling of pulling tiles, of trying to be mindful, but with a lot more going on, both in production quality and depth of strategy, I think Azul does a very similar thing, but to me, just better. And then if you're looking for another game that uses a Connect 4 implementation in a way that is not Connect 4, Fairy Tail Inn from Command Games gives you a fun little puzzle of trying to balance different Fairy Tail characters as you slide them into the grid and score points accordingly in a shared Connect 4 board. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.